Hey Bible readers, I'm Tara Lee Cobble, and I'm your host for the Bible Recap. We're continuing to wrap up the final days of the southern kingdom of Judah. We're not too far off from the days prophesied by Isaiah, where this kingdom will be overthrown by the Babylonians. But as for now, we've got 8-year-old King Josiah on the throne. Forgive me, but I can't help picture a little half-sized throne made of Legos. Josiah is a good king. Once he grows up a bit, he tells his servant Hilkiah to make financial arrangements for the house of God to be repaired. And at some point during the process of restoration, Hilkiah finds the book of the law, which is likely a reference to the scroll of Deuteronomy. It's somewhere in the temple. We don't know exactly where he found it, but given the state of the temple, it's probably shoved behind some idols somewhere and covered in dust. It's been a long time since anyone has read or reflected on the words of the law. Most people have probably forgotten what it says, or maybe even that it exists at all. It seems like no one was looking for it or felt distraught that it was missing. They were all just doing their own thing, living their lives and fighting their wars and making decisions, all without the guidance of God. Hilkiah passes the book along to the secretary, who reads it, then brings it to Josiah and reads it to him. And Josiah is wrecked. He realizes just how far off their hearts and their lives are, and how the kings before him have led the people astray for generations. As it turns out, what you don't know can hurt you. When we forget that truth exists, when it gets covered in the dust of our busyness, our hearts can't help but go astray. Josiah tells his leaders to seek God and see how they should proceed. So the priest and his team go to a local prophetess named Huldah. She tells them that God is going to bring disaster on Judah for its sin, but that God will spare King Josiah since his heart was repentant. He will die before the disaster comes. Josiah's heart is so burdened by the whole thing that he gathers all the elders and priests and prophets and the people and has them come to the temple, where he reads the book of the covenant to them. Then he makes the covenant before God to obey him with all his heart and soul, and the people join in. At some point during all this, he sets out like a man on a mission. He removes and destroys all the idols in the temple. He fires a bunch of wicked priests and gives the death penalty to some others, and he banishes the mediums and necromancers. By the way, we've been seeing that word a lot lately, and if you aren't familiar with it, it just means a wizard or a warlock or someone who practices a kind of magic specifically related to communicating with the dead. Josiah also desecrates the places of idolatry, and in one of my favorite moves of all, he turns those places into graveyards. 23:14 says, "He broke in pieces the pillars and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with the bones of men." It feels so fitting that these places of idol worship are turned into places of death. This also reminds me of when Hezekiah turned the house of Baal into a bathroom in 2 Kings 10. Josiah follows God with all his heart and soul and mind, according to 23:25. He reestablishes the Passover feast, which had once again fallen by the wayside. You may recall that King Hezekiah celebrated the Passover too, but he did a makeshift Passover since it was the wrong time of year and the people were unclean. But for Josiah, it's all happening according to God's commands and schedule. The people of Judah follow God for as long as Josiah is alive. He's the one good king we've read about so far who never has a phase where his heart turns away from God. He remains faithful, unless you consider his final actions to be motivated by pride, which some do. His death comes in a strange and unexpected way. Here's how it goes down. While the Egyptian Pharaoh Necho is coming to join forces with Assyria and confront the Babylonians, Josiah decides he wants in on the action. The Pharaoh warns him to stay away, but Josiah disguises himself and goes up to battle anyway, where Pharaoh Necho fatally wounds him. More on that in a minute. Josiah is the last good king Judah will have. After Josiah dies, his son Jehoahaz replaces him on the throne. Jehoahaz is a wicked king, and he's eventually captured and taken back to Egypt by the same Pharaoh who killed his dad. He dies there in captivity. The Egyptian Pharaoh kind of rules the roost at that point, so he appoints another one of Josiah's sons to be king instead. His given name is Eliakim, but Pharaoh Necho is like, "I don't like that name. Let's call you Jehoiakim instead." Jehoiakim isn't a great king either. He's Necho's puppet now, taxing the people to send money back to Egypt. What was your God shot today? Mine was in the events surrounding King Josiah's death. Who would have seen it coming that one of Judah's best kings would have been taken out because he didn't listen to an Egyptian pharaoh? Not me. I would have been like, whatever the pharaoh says, disregard it. But according to 2 Chronicles 35:22, Pharaoh Necho was actually speaking the truth. This reminds me of how God used the pagan King Cyrus as his servant too. It all serves as a reminder that God can even work and speak truth through the mouths of those who oppose him. He's not limited to only working through those who are his kids. He can use anyone and everyone to point to himself and his truth somehow, which should make us both more humble and more discerning. I'm not saying we should go around receiving everything anyone says as truth from God. Rather, I'm noticing that what this text reveals is that we can't just dismiss something as a lie just because we don't like the person who said it. You may remember that God spoke to Balaam through his donkey, and today God spoke to Josiah through a pagan. I love that he wants to speak to us. And because of that, I pray he gives us wisdom as we try to discern what things line up with the truth of his word. Seeking him is the best place to start when we're seeking truth. He's where the joy is. Okay, Bible readers, it's time for our weekly check-in. How are you doing? How are you feeling about all of this? What kind of thoughts are rolling around in your head after you read and recap? I hope you're loving this more and more all the time. I pray for you often, and I continue to ask God to reveal himself to you. I hope you're learning more about him and finding that you trust him more as a result of what you're learning. And here's a pro tip. For any places where you need help, ask him for wisdom. Ask him for heart change. Ask him to correct the lies you believe about him. I believe he stands ready to answer those prayers with a yes, because he wants to be known even more than we want to know him. I can't wait to dig back into the Word with you again tomorrow.